Hello, and welcome back to Isaac's Reviews. It has been a couple of weeks since we've done one of these. Sometimes real life gets in the way. But I'm glad to be back, and I've got an excellent story for you guys today. So, I really enjoy different genres of stories. I enjoy a good film noir, to the annoyance of my wife. She finds it boring. I find it fascinating. I enjoy just a good straight up action movie. I enjoy a good fantasy read. I grew up reading Terry Brooks mostly. Um, Obviously, I've read Tolkien and Robert E. Howard and various folks. Um, R.A. Salvatore, that's a good one. So I've enjoyed a variety of different stories. One of my favorite genres to read is westerns. I think I previously reviewed a Jonah Hex comic. Um, I enjoy a good western. One of my favorite movies is The Magnificent Seven. Um, Today, our review is a good western. Let me introduce you to an author that you are going to want to keep an eye on. The fella goes by Mage Leader on YouTube, and I had never heard of him before until I saw the ads for this book. And so I picked it up on a whim, and I am glad I did. Today's read is And Hell Followed With Him by Mage Leader. Let's get into it. Our main character is a man by the name of Reverend Elijah Sheffield. He is a circuit riding preacher. He is on his way to Pearson's Hope, Montana, where he encounters a man named Abel getting robbed by bandits outside of Pearson's Hope. In rides the Reverend Sheffield. He stops the bandits, he prays, and he gives them a choice. And they make the wrong one. He ends up shooting the bandits. And then he's informed that he has to turn in his guns in Pearson's Hope. Sheffield turns in his guns. And we learn the names of his pistols. He carries 4 of them. Can you guess what their names are? I'll give you a minute. His pistols are named Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. He turns in his pistols to the sheriff, a man named Wells. There's also a wonderful commentary on gun control, with Sheffield saying that maybe lawmen should fear their neighbors because it, quote-unquote, keeps them honest. This is when we find out that a man named Calhoun is raiding the town. We also find out that Sheffield's other profession is he's a bounty hunter. Sheffield stays with the Thibodeaux and is preparing a sermon. And chapter 3 opens with an honest-to-God sermon. You don't get this often in modern storytelling. Even if you have a religious figure, they don't delve into the actual beliefs of that character very often. They present him as a, love your neighbor, treat other people right. Not very often do you get a honest to goodness sermon out of that character. And it's a good one too. He's talking about the woman at the well. And he's talking about our responsibility and redemption and forgiveness. And it's very, very good and ties in with the themes of the story very well. So we get the sermon. Then Sheffield is arguing with Wells, who's trying to get him to not stand up to Calhoun. Sheffield takes his trusty steed, Enoch, and goes to see Lieutenant Calhoun. Turns out that Isaac Calhoun was a former Confederate lieutenant who knows the Reverend. Only he knows our dear Reverend by a different name. He's known and has quite the reputation as a very deadly gunman. He was also a Confederate. There is some good dialogue with Calhoun railing against the North and Lincoln. It's very well written. It doesn't sugarcoat anything, and it isn't the nonsensical pablum that you get fed from modern schools. It presents a very honest discussion of North and South, Union and Confederate, and the issues that the war was actually fought over. Hint, it wasn't really slavery. It's very good, very honest. It's not preachy, and it presents a very good argument. Sheffield gives him a very simple message: stop raiding the town, or get ready to meet Jesus. So Sheffield comes back to the town, finds the sheriff and the mayor waiting for him. They have another discussion about security and safety. The town has a gun ban in effect. It reminds me of an episode I saw of Have Gun Will Travel. They had a very similar premise where there was a gun ban in effect, and he discussed the merits of banning guns versus letting your citizens have them. Very interesting discussion. Again, not preachy. Interesting discussion, and summarizes some very good points about why gun bans are absolute foolishness. So the mayor tells the sheriff to jail Sheffield or get rid of him. Sam, who runs the hardware store on Main Street, was threatened, and all the crooks took all of his guns that he had on display. The preacher finds this out while he's in the hardware store, and he's interrupted by a brawl outside. He moves outside to stop it when he is, in fact, stopped by Sheriff Wells. The mayor's man, who is armed, ends up shooting the citizen, who's named Amos. Amos dies in his wife's arms. Sheffield tells him to surrender. He refuses. Sheffield has been disarmed at this point. He's given up his pistols, but he hasn't given up his throwing knives. He kills the man, and then he's arrested. So he shuffled off to talk to the mayor and not gone to jail. At the mayor's place, we discover that Wells has very good motivation to help the crooks. They've kidnapped his son. Wells tells him, in one instance, to let him see the boy, and they tell him no, to put the boy down and get back to work, or the men would kill his son. Once incarcerated, Sheffield offers to help help Wells rescue his son. He agrees, and they start to work together, and they gather up some town people. 16 people in total, counting Sheffield and Wells, start to fortify the jail. The rest of the book is different fights. I don't really want to spoil it. They do rescue the son, they fortify the jail, and then they have various fights and skirmishes with this bandit group. There are some twists and turns. There's a setup for another adventure, and there's a very good, just action-packed finale. Why should you pick up this book from this author? Again, is relatively new. This is an excellent book, first of all. It's well written. It's well produced. I believe the man did it himself. It's looks great. It's got good artwork. It's well written. It has complex, interesting characters. It's a very good action-packed story. It presents a good argument for the morality of its main character. It's a story about heroes and villains and triumphing over evil in a very literal sense. In a world today of wishy-washy, heroes being just this side of villains, it's nice to have an actual hero that you can root for. It's nice to have a categorically fun and entertaining adventure with a great character that I want to see more adventures from this character. I am very excited to see a book 2, a book 3, The Further Adventures of Circuit Riding Preacher Elijah Sheffield. I am very excited. So, I enjoyed it. The book is called And Hell Followed With Him by Mage Leader. I highly recommend you pick it up. I enjoyed it. Hope I haven't spoiled too much of it. I've left quite a lot that you can find out for yourself. So, enjoy. I hope this is a good recommendation for you. God bless. Good night.